Again, we will be recording this training session for future training purposes. So if your team, if you want to present this video to your team, anyone else on your team, you can access them through elogiclearning.com, and you can upload them there and share them with your team. So today we're talking about certifications of completion. We're going to look in depth in how to create your certificates and maybe edit them and some differences there. I think most of you know me now. I think you've all been on the calls before, but I'm Tommy DeMasi, and I'm the QA and Support Analyst here with eLogic. I started back in April. I came from a company that was a client, that had eLogic as a client, so I'm very familiar with their system and how it works, and I've worked with other systems, implementing new HR system, implementing a new benefits system, so I have a lot of background in analyst work and systems themselves and working with a business and setting those systems up, as well as a degree in marketing. So I'm here for you if you have any questions going forward. Oh, and that little guy is my son, Calvin. Sorry. I have a son, Calvin. He's 4 now. He's a little older than in this picture. And I have another little boy on the way. He'll be coming and making his appearance in February. So 2 little men to raise here. Today we're going to be talking about how to create and edit certificates. We're going to do we're going to talk about the difference between a regular resolution and a high resolution. This is something new. We've just created a high resolution option. Using content editor, so how do you maneuver through that content editor to edit your certificates? And how do you apply the certificates? So once you've created these certificates, where do you put them? So that's our agenda for today. I'm going to leave your lines open because there's only a few of you today. But so if you have any questions, please feel free to interrupt or chat them, whichever you feel more comfortable. Either way works for me. All right. So when you log into your LMS, you'll go to Other Configurations and Certificate Template Management. This is where you'll go to see your current certificate templates as well as create certificates. eLogic provides you with 2 examples. We have renamed them here. These are 2 that eLogic provides you. And we've given them the ability to copy. So you have the ability to take that already created template and copy it so that you can add your own background to it and your own information. So I'm going to go ahead and hit copy. I'm going to add my new name and hit submit. Once I hit submit, I'm going to have to search for my new, because right now it's just showing the existing ones. But if oh, there it is. I'm sorry, it updated. So I'll select certificate demo. That's what I created. And it pulls up eLogic's template. So for those of you, this training is geared towards those of you that aren't familiar with HTML. It's those that have the ability to create this type of certificate or this type of information through HTML. It's a little different, and it's definitely a lot easier if you have that ability to create an HTML and then just copy the HTML directly into our editor here, and then it's already formatted. You don't have to worry about all the formatting. But for those of you like myself who need the design portion and the content editor, then this is going to be your best route, is copying eLogic's template and adding your own certificates and rearranging the tokens as needed. So the first thing you want to do is you're going to want to create an image, your certificate. So as you can see, eLogic's image is the red border, the certificate of completion. This is the certified. So you can see all the static information that was created in their image. And you'll want to decide if this is going to be a high resolution image or if it's going to be just a standard resolution. The difference of the two is basically printing purposes. So if you just want a certificate to display on the LMS for the user to see that they've completed their course and they want that certificate, and they're just going to, they may print it or they may not, so it's not like a high demand for printing quality, then you'll want to just keep it as the regular resolution. If you want it to be high quality printing document, then you'll want to create the high resolution. The high resolution is a little slower to upload, so the user might experience some slowness when trying to open up their certificate and print it, but it's not minutes or anything, it's seconds, but there is a difference in speed. So when you're creating your image, that's when you would want to decide it's high or regular resolution. If it's regular resolution, then you will keep to your 830 width wide by 580 pixel height, so you'll have to do the size. If it's a high resolution, then you're going to want it to be bigger. So it's going to be 3,330 pixel wide by 2,550 pixels high, which is all in our user guide, those dimensions. So you'll want to create the image so that it fits the size that's needed within the certificate. Also, when creating an image, it's recommended that you use RGB color mode with a 72 dpi for regular and with a 300 dpi for high resolution. Then you'll want to either copy or create a new certificate, like I copied, but you can always hit add and create it from scratch if that's easier for you. You'll give it a name. This is where you'll enter in the name. This is where you'll add if it's high or regular resolution. I'm going to start here with the regular resolution. Then you'll see there's a table on top of the image. So the image is actually embedded in the table itself. So we create a table so that you can align your tokens. Because most certificates, you're going to want to pull the user's name, pull the certification date, earn date, and possibly the certification name, and possibly the expiration date based on what type of certificate you're doing. And this certificate is specific to certifications itself, but you could create one that's a curriculum name. I'm going to go back. There's another one that's a curriculum specific. Oh, yeah, it says completions here. So this would be like, excuse me. It looks like both of them are complete for, oh, here we go. Sorry, I kept picking the wrong one. You'll see most will have and this is where you can pull the curriculum name instead of the certification name. So just some standard tokens that you'll probably pull through your to your certificate for the user. But that's why we put a table. We put the image within a table so that we can align these tokens and so that they can be centered or put on the lines that you've created. So like if this is a line for the date, then you want to make sure the date was aligned on the underline. Now modifying the table. So when you right-click on the table, you'll see all different types of, you can insert rows, delete rows, insert columns, delete columns, lots of options here. In order to add or update the image, you would want to go to Table Properties. You can see my table is already in the right dimensions for a regular resolution certificate. So if you want your table to be the same size as your image, 580 by 830. And then I'm going to get rid of this image because that's the eLogic template, and I'm going to create or add a new image. So I deleted that template and I selected the image icon. Now, if you create an image that is not, I'm going to upload a new one. Find my certificate. So hit, once you've entered, here's all the different type of file extensions you can use for this uploading. So if yours doesn't fit this, it will not upload correctly. Upload my image. Now my image probably isn't going to be the right size, so you could edit that size here if you like instead of when you create the image. Always suggest when you create it to do it the right width and height, but if you need to, you can always adjust it here. And then I save it, and it creates a second one for me, and then I hit insert. So now I've updated my image within the table. You can, I'm going to hit OK. And now I have a new image in the background of my table. I'm going to need this token to go move up to this table. So I'm going to delete that token because I don't need it there. But I do have to put the curriculum name here. So I'm going to go over to this is where I insert my tokens or code snippet. And I'm going to find curriculum name and enter that there. I'm going to go to this cell, and I'm going to add my username, first and last name. And then now that I have my tokens in there, I'm going to go to cell properties, and I'm going to align that content. So I want those to be centered and at the top because that's where that line is. Actually, I could probably, well, I'm going to make that bigger. And I want to increase my font. And then move that down a little bit. As you can see, as I fix this one moves down a little bit. So we might need to go to the cell properties and move that up a little. I think the font's a little big for that, actually, so let me fix that. I could make that font a little smaller for that, for the curriculum name. And then I'm going to move, I keep forgetting to highlight the little N there. Okay, and then I'm going to move this up a little bit. Go to cell properties, see what it looks like if I align it to the top. There we go. I don't need this curriculum name here. And I do have a date option down here, so I can add curriculum earn date. go to my cell properties and align that to be centered as well, and probably to the top. So this is just a process in kind of working around the table and kind of getting your tokens centered. If you know anything about, let me get rid of this. If you know anything about HTML, you can help it. You can do some centering with HTML. Like, I know very little, but I do know you can add like space padding here versus spaces. So if you know anything about padding, if you need to move this over to the right a little bit, you might want to pad from the left and give it, you know, a few, like 100 spaces, and that'll move it over a little bit. So give it a little space. So if you know anything about that, I suggest kind of playing with that a little bit. Once you have your token there, you can hit preview, and it'll show you what it'll look like from a user perspective. But I also recommend, once you've got it aligned here and looking the way you want it when you're finished, I would also test it by signing it to a course, and then that you only can see a test course of some sort, and looking at it through a transcript view, just to see the difference, and through the print, because sometimes when you change it to print view, it might skew the lines a little bit and change the view. So I recommend looking at it from a transcript and then print view before you finalize it and attach it to everyone's inactive course. So that's just a standard certificate. Some other little, once you're done with that, once they're all aligned and everything, you hit submit to save it. I'm going to show you now an example of a high resolution. So I've created a high resolution certificate for you to see. As you can see, when you first look at it, it's too big to see, right? So I would suggest altering your zoom so you can see the full view. Now, we know that high resolution has to be 3,330 pixels by 2,550 pixels. So if you can imagine, that's a pretty large document or image or table. So you'll want to make sure your font matches that. One thing I can suggest, this font right here only goes up to 72. So I had to go into my cell property, and I had to adjust the font by using the style builder. And that's where you would enter in the 100 pixels. Well, I actually use HTML because I'd already put the token in. But that's where you'll change. You'll want to put the font in first before you put your token in. But you can also alter it on HTML, which is a lot easier. So if you go here and find your font here, and it'll tell you what word. See how it says username and user first name and user last name? It'll tell you the existing font. So if you have 72 and you want it bigger, I went and just changed this number to 100. And once I hit it, I don't have to enter or anything else. I just hit design, and my font changes. So it's just as easy to use HTML for that. As you can see, I only used the 3-row chart for this one, a table. To me, sometimes that's a little easier than the multi-rows that we saw in the original example. So just throwing that out there. Again, if you know anything a little bit about HTML, it helps to, you could use like the padding. I used the padding here. So I didn't have so many rows that were conflicting with my tokens. So if I wanted, different tokens up here, I can add them up here. But you can see I just kind of use less rows. But so it's up to you. However, whatever's easier for you. Do we have any specific questions on creating or copying certificates? Okay. Then I'm going to move on to what do you do with them once they've been created. So once you have your certificate lined the way you like it, just hit submit. You can add them in two ways. You can add them to all curriculum types, or you can add them to specific certifications. So if you're a company who awards certifications for certain training, then you may want to give them a certificate of attached to that certification. So if I go in here and edit the existing one, I can change this to my high resolution example and hit submit. And now that certification will have a certificate of completion. So when you go to your transcripts, there it is. If I have a certification, which doesn't look like I do not. So I'll go here. Look at the admin user and look at their transcripts. I'm sure they've completed a certification. There we go. And you'll see you can, when I received a certification, or when they received a certification of CPR, they received a certificate of completion. The other option, obviously, I'm going to go over since I'm here, is the curriculum. So if you attach a certificate of completion to a course, an e-learning online course, then the user will have that on their transcript to view and print. So to add that to the curriculum, you can go to course management, select a course, or when you're adding a new course, at the bottom of a course, we'll have that option to add a certificate. So if I wanted to add the certificate to this one, I hit submit. Once you add it to your curriculum, it only will add it to those who complete it after you add it. So going forward, it won't go back in history and find anyone with that curriculum and add the certificate. Any questions about adding certificates to certifications or curriculum? No? All right then, I am going to, that is all I have for you today. But if anyone has any questions before we go, please don't hesitate and ask. But going forward, again, eLogicLearning.com is going to have your taped webinars as well as any future webinars coming. So let us know if you need anything else. Thank you all. Thank you for your participation.